Alright, YouTube, welcome back for another video. Back with another Larry Bird video. I don't think I seen this one, The Ugly Truth of Larry Bird's Downfall. I think I ran across this the other day. I don't know what's going on with my throat, man. But anyway, go get right to the video, man. Make sure you guys subscribe if you're new, hit the like button, all that good stuff, and let's get to Larry Bird's ugly truth about his downfall. Let's see what's going on.
You guys know who Larry Bird is, right?
Yeah.
A three-time MVP, a three-time champion, an absolute legend, one of the greatest players to ever step foot on the NBA court. Every story, every news article about Bird glorified him to no end. Everything from his ridiculous play on the court to his mystifying trash talking. With an endless number of players sharing stories and experiences with Larry that almost seem like a fantasy. In the eyes of the NBA fanbase, there's an aura surrounding Larry Bird, almost like he's untouchable. However, there have also been some times in his NBA career where he looked vulnerable. In fact, towards the end of his career, in addition to the numerous injuries he suffered, he ran into a lot of conflicts within the Celtics organization, and his teammates as well. How's it going, folks? My name's Andy, and in this video, we're gonna take a look at the fall of Larry Bird. What went wrong? What happened with the relationship between him and the rest of the Celtics? Was there anything more to his early retirement than just his back problems? The year is 1988. Larry Bird just had the best statistical season of his entire career, with a whopping 29.9 points per game, along with a much lower turnover rate than usual. At 31 years old, was still absolutely killing it. Throughout the season, he garnered a ton of praise, cause as he got older, his longevity came into question. But for a short while there, he was crushing his doubters. As a team, the Celtics won 57 games, but their playoff run came to a screeching halt. In the conference finals, they would fall to the Pistons in 6 games, with Bird having an absolutely terrible performance. Now, at this point, Bird was still at the top of his game, and nothing seemed wrong with him. He just had an off series, that was it. Unfortunately, his career quickly came crashing down. Over the summer, it was discovered that he had foot problems that went unnoticed in the previous playoffs. Bird isn't exactly the person who wants to let people know that he's hurt or he's struggling, but he was. It wasn't the first time either. A few years prior, in 1985, Bird suffered a back injury when helping his parents shovel and clean up their driveway. The worst part of this is that Bird never wanted to let the Celtics know about it. He always wanted to play hurt and didn't want to make a big deal out of it, even though it was a big deal. Apparently, according to this article, quote, "The injury was so extreme that he commonly needed to relax for hours at a time, either in between games or in some cases even throughout as well after them. From 1987 to 88 onward, he would have to have his spinal column straightened before a number of the games, merely to be able to get involved."
Want to switch to a tech career or get promoted in your current tech role? Practicum is here for you. Highest ranked data science part.
It accumulated even further at the start of the 1988 to 89 season. After playing just 6 games, he underwent surgery on his foot, and it forced him to sit out the rest of the season. But once again, this wasn't anything new for him. In his sophomore season of high school, he also suffered a broken foot and sat out for an extended period of time. The problem is, just like with his back problems, he didn't want to let anybody know about it. He tried to hide it, which made it even worse. It definitely contributes to his reputation of being a, quote, tough guy. It was honestly a stupid thing to do. Had he sought out treatment earlier, maybe his career would have lasted longer.
Yeah, it would have.
So, while this was all a terrible situation for the Celtics, it wasn't supposed to be a chronic issue. Just like with his back problem, they expected Bird to brush it off and come back and play just as well as before, and return back to his superstar self prior to the surgery. But what really happened was that Bird was never the same again. And following his return in the next year, drama within the organization started to develop. At the start of the 1989-90 season, Bird was supposedly healthy, but his actual game severely deteriorated. His scoring became a lot less efficient. He started settling for a lot more jump shots because the foot surgery hampered his athleticism. The way he used to easily blow by players was rarely seen anymore, if at all. Bird's once smooth, once agile playstyle became very rugged and predictable. He was also 33 years old at this point, which certainly did not help. In this season, he still averaged about 24 points a game, but on the lowest field goal percentage since his rookie year. Nonetheless, there was plenty of drama all season long within the Celtics organization, primarily centered around Bird's role on the team. Everyone knew he was starting to slow down, so head coach Jimmy Rogers started to shift away from a Bird-centric offense. Instead, he opted to move towards a more team-oriented playstyle. He increased their pace, now being in the upper half of the league, as opposed to previous years when they were one of the more slower teams. This proved to be a difficult adjustment for Larry, and analysts at the time attributed his struggles to not being able to keep up, and the high-tempo play took a toll on his already beaten body. However, it was the addition of Jim Paxson as their new starting point guard, which was really the straw that broke the camel's back. Not only was Paxson 35 years old, which really didn't help their fast style of play, but he also had regular confrontations with Bird.
I did not know that.
At one point, Paxson publicly talked about Bird's poor shot selection, and even said he was, quote, hogging the ball, even though Bird still led the team in assists. Paxson was even quoted saying Bird was tearing the team apart. This article by Nick Gelso on Bleacher Report described the situation quite well. Truth be told, Larry was forcing poor shots as a result of the team's lack of offensive chemistry. Rogers was pushing an up-tempo style of play with a 35-year-old point guard. As a result, and to Bird's discord, Dennis Johnson was forced to the bench, being replaced by an overweight playmaker named John Bagley.
Oh, man.
Confrontations between Bird and Rogers and the rest of the coaching staff became commonplace. Eventually, it reached to the higher levels of management too. Some of his teammates would talk poorly of him and that the team would be better off without him, which was, an absolute joke. But even Celtics fans were starting to get impatient. Although his teammates and coaches might have been a bit harsh, it was true that Bird was not the same player he once was.
All those injuries.
Anyway, the Celtics would finish the season with a 52-30 record. Still, a respectable record for all the tension and drama surrounding the team all year. The first round of the 1990 playoffs was a doozy. The 4-5 matchup has always been the most competitive series, and this time it was no exception. The Celtics got out to a 2-0 lead, and then they lost 3 in a row,
Lost to the Knicks.
losing the series and ultimately ending this tumultuous season. Overall, his final 2 years were an absolute mess. When Larry played, the Celtics still looked like a top-notch team, but when he sat out due to injuries, the team looked quite poor. And he sat out quite often. The back problems flared up numerous times, causing him to get another surgery in 1991. At this point of his career, Bird was done, and it was evident by his 1991 playoff run. The Celtics were on a roll, but Bird himself was having a horrible time, especially in the second round against Detroit. The Pistons were always a thorn on his side, but this time they really shut him down. Bird averaged a pitiful 13 points a game on horrendous shooting.
Damn.
Celtics analysts and reporters attributed this to his back problems, but it was a combination of that and his age, and the Pistons being determined to knock him out. By 1992, Bird was officially done and retired by the age of 34. he would become part of a small handful of players who retired despite averaging over 20 points per game in his final season. At the end of the day, even though Bird drastically slowed down compared to his prime, he was still a star. In his worst years, he was at the forefront of the league and still
Oof.
competed with the best of the
Still
best.
cringe when I see that.
When he got invited to the 1992 Dream Team, the first US Olympic team to accept NBA players, the players joked about how washed up he was.
Damn.
And of course, he wasn't very effective in the actual Olympics. Regardless, the latter part of Bird's career was a roller coaster. But despite all of that, despite his relatively short career compared to other all-time greats, Bird is still considered one of the best of all time,
Yes, he
a
is.
legendary player
No
who
doubt about
changed
that.
the game of basketball. In an era dominated by fast-paced athleticism and quickness, Bird was more mellow and dominated with his wits and trickery.
Yeah.
He's arguably the greatest passer at the small forward position we've ever seen. Only LeBron James has an argument to be a better passer than Larry, but it's debatable.
Yeah.
Perhaps it was his lack of longevity that really hurts him in the all-time rankings. If he lasted as long as someone like LeBron or Kareem or Tim Duncan, and never suffered all those devastating back issues, there's a real chance that Larry could have been the greatest of all
Oh, yeah,
time.
most
He had all the
definitely.
talents, all the skills, and extravagance
Maybe, I
to
don't
do
know.
so.
I'm just talking.
Anyway, that's all, folks. That sums up the unfortunate downfall of Larry Bird towards the twilight of his career. Let me know your thoughts on Larry and how much further would his legacy progress if he didn't suffer those injuries. The last few years of his career are rarely talked about because they're quite underwhelming, but I wanted to shed some light on what really happened with his demise. Thank you everybody so much for watching. I hope y'all enjoyed the video, and as always,
Yeah, man. If it weren't for those injuries, he would have played much longer, maybe 5 to 6 years longer. But I didn't know anything about the him getting into it with his teammates and the organization and stuff like that. I did not know that. I would have never thought that ever. But it happens though, you got stars clashing with their teammates and coaching staff and fans and stuff like that. So it happened. It happened. It's always bound to happen with certain stars and stuff. But yeah, if Larry Bird had been injured like that back injury ain't nothing to play with. He should have, the first time he hurt his back like that, he should have really did something about that. Got it taken care of soon as possible, and maybe this would be a whole different story. And like he said, he might would have been like the greatest player ever, or whatever like that. So I don't know, but let me know what y'all think about the video. What y'all think about Larry Bird's ugly truth and his downfall at the end of his career? Till next time, your boy King Smooth. I'm out. Make sure you guys subscribe, hit the like button, all the good stuff, and I'm out. Peace.